What is up, everybody? Mr. Purtis here. Welcome to the Cram session number 2. If you missed Cram session number 1, just a quick little overview that my goal here is not to teach you every single thing in units 3 and 4. I just can't do that. This is just a quick 10, 12-minute video, kind of a night before, week of, just a little study thing. I got a couple graphics here from freemanpedia.com. Check it out. This is from units 3 and 4. So this is one time period, which is 1450 to 1750. The first time period, which was units 1 and 2, was circa 1200 to 1450. This is 1450 to 1750. This is 5 things you need to know. Let's rock and roll on this. The first thing you probably think of this time period of 1450 to 1750 is the age of exploration or European exploration, but I want to get you out of that mind frame and shift you kind of globally. So the first thing I want to mention is just there are gunpowder empires. These empires, got their gunpowder from China in the previous time period. Remember, China had invented gunpowder, and it's going to spread in the last time period, and it's eventually perfected in this period from 1450 to 1750. Generally, we're talking gunpowder is going to be used for rifles, or so guns, as well as cannons. So those two things are going to give people an advantage. If you have guns and gunpowder, you have a significant advantage over the people who don't. And we have a couple different empires here, which we'll kind of focus in on in a second. We have the Russian Empire, which by the end of the time period is going to spread all the way across. We have China, so we're going to have the Ming and then the Qing. We have the Mughal Empire down here. We have the Safavid, the Ottoman. These are our Muslim empires. Sunni, Shia, FYI, and that's pretty much what we're looking at here. So we also have some empires over here, just as a reminder, the Aztec and Inca, who are going to be overthrown by the Spanish. So a couple things about these gunpowder empires. They're all going to govern differently, and if you want to zoom in on them, go back and watch some of the other videos, because I have one on for each of these, but I just want to kind of give an overview here, all right? Some stuff that you have to know, some stuff that you should know, some important characteristics, good SAQ type answers or questions. So some important characteristics. Number 1 is how they administer. How do they govern their empire? Almost all of them are centralized. So they have one ruler in charge, and that ruler disperses his power throughout. If you don't know what centralized is yet, I don't know what to tell you. We also have to recruit bureaucrats. We're these huge empires now. Coming back here for a second. This is an enormous empire. This is South Asia. It's huge. And the question is, how do you rule over this empire being as big as it is? And the way they're going to do that is different in each place. So, for example, in China, we're going to have the civil service exam, which have been around for almost over 1,000 years at this point. So we're going to have a test. We're going to have people who are educated enough try and take that test. We're going to make sure the test is standardized. So no matter who you are, you're treated equally, so there's no favoritism. And we essentially want the best people who we can recruit to work for the government, the best and the smartest. And if the best and the smartest are working, people will have confidence in the government. So that's the civil service exam in China. We have the Devshirme system in the Ottoman Empire. This connects back to the Janissaries. We need to recruit soldiers. So the Ottomans are going to take Christian boys from their empire and force them into the military between the ages of 6 and 16. And they are called Janissaries. They're full-time standing army soldiers. And then we also have the samurais in the Tokugawa shogunate. These are going to be the soldiers for the Tokugawa. Now, eventually the Tokugawa closes themselves off, if you remember this, and they isolate themselves from the Europeans as exploration is going on. And the samurais are eventually going to, instead of being warriors, are going to become educated bureaucrats themselves, because there's no war going on within Japan. We also have religious beliefs. Each empire is going to have their own kind of issues or concerns. So it's like, so there's one, how do you treat other people who are different than you? Because we have these huge empires, and they're multi-ethnic and multi-religious and what we would call today national almost. So what do we do? How do we treat all these people? That's a huge issue in these gunpowder empires. And how do you promote your own beliefs and help spread them if you want, and if that's part of your religious goals? So some examples. We have the Mughal rulers. If you remember, the Mughals are Muslim. They're Sunni Muslim. They are going to be ruling over a Hindu majority. South Asia has been, throughout most of its history, almost its entire history, has been Hindu majority. So you have this Muslim group ruling over the Hindus. So how do you actually make sure that the Hindus don't rise up and rebel? And what the Mughal rulers decided to do is to allow the Hindus to continue to practice and incorporate them into the government structure, as opposed to isolating themselves. So something that we see in like the Spanish Empire at this period is they're trying to persecute anyone who's not Catholic. We see the opposite in the Mughal Empire, where you have this toleration of religions. You also have the Ottoman Empire, culturally, religiously diverse, very big. You have Jews, Christians, Muslims, Sunnis, Shia, a lot of different groups there. So you allow some element in the Ottoman Empire of being religiously tolerant in order to make sure people aren't rebelling against you. Now, keep in mind, the X factor here is we're talking they're religiously diverse and tolerant, yet we're also taking Christian boys. So there's kind of this, this dichotomy here. Good word. Also, we have the Tokugawa, who I mentioned. They're going to ban the Westerners. They do allow the Dutch to continue to trade, which is going to allow some ideas to continue to push into Japan. And then also we have all these, so you see, we have all of these empires here. They're kind of touching each other. They're on borders of each other. They're hanging out with each other. There's going to be conflict and war. And one of the big ones that still really goes all the way through modern times is this Sunni Shia split between the Ottomans and the Safavid. And we see that in modern times between between Iran and Iraq, for example, that those two countries are still, because of this Sunni Shia split, still have issues today. We also have the Columbian Exchange. If you don't know the Columbian Exchange, just turn off this video and just fail the AP exam. Columbian Exchange, transfer of animals, plants, no offense anybody, transfer of animals, plants. This is going to impact period 5 and 6, but it's going to go well, it's going to impact 3 and 4, but it's going to go well beyond into periods 5 and 6. We're mainly getting good stuff coming to Afro-Eurasia and a bunch of bad stuff coming to the Americas, a lot of diseases. The food that's going to come here is going to help increase the population in Afro-Eurasia. And then the stuff that's coming here is going to really reduce the Native American population. And we're going to see the growth of plantations to grow some of this stuff that the Europeans have desired for a long time. The sugarcane, the cotton, the stuff that you can't grow in Europe because of the climate, but now we can grow in the Americas. So if you don't know Columbian Exchange, someone failed you miserably. We also have this European exploration, which is kind of probably the one thing you think about this time period is this European exploration, and this exploration is going to impact and start the Columbian Exchange. But you should understand what causes this exploration to happen. So we have technological innovations. Those advancements and inventions from periods 1 and 2 that come across the Silk Road from East Asia and coming up from the Middle East, from the Muslim world, are going to find their way into European hands. This is compass, ship making, map making, astrolabe, all those things that allow you to navigate. The Spanish and the Portuguese, kind of skipping ahead here a little bit, the Spanish and the Portuguese are going to open navigational schools or are going to sponsor navigation and exploration, which encourages people to do this who might not have the funds otherwise. Also, we have the Protestant Reformation going on in Europe. There are people who are breaking away from the Catholic Church and saying that the Catholic Church is corrupt and that their view of how to get to heaven is not correct. So we have this split amongst Christians. If you are in a Catholic country and you are Lutheran, you might leave to go to the Americas in order to find religious freedom. If you are in a Protestant region and you are Catholic, you might go to the Americas. And we're going to see people set up areas in North America to find this religious freedom. The people who are coming into South and Central America are mainly Catholic. They are Spanish and Portuguese, and the Spanish and Portuguese are looking to spread Catholicism to gain favor with the Pope and to fulfill what they believe is God's duty by converting this whole new population to Catholicism. Lastly, and this is kind of just a huge overview here. There's a lot of stuff here, but I just want to go over a couple terms here because there's so much in this unit, but can't do it all here. So just a couple terms that kind of pop up and that you should know the definitions of. One is joint stock companies. These are the European trade groups and companies where people invest money jointly and essentially get a stock certificate to invest in this company, and they get a monopoly on trade. So there's the British East India Company, which is from Britain. There's the Dutch East India Company, which is from the Netherlands. There's the French East India Company. So all these different companies are going to go out and have a monopoly within their country to trade in different regions. And there's mercantilism, and mercantilism is the idea that these colonies that are set up in the Americas have to send their raw materials to the mother country, and the mother country will create finished products and send them back. So if you are in the colonies, you are restricted to only trade with your mother country. Now, North America and the British and the French kind of treat their colonies a little different, where in Spain and Portugal, it's very strict mercantilism. We also have silver mining in Peru. We're taking that silver from the mines in Peru. We're forcing the Inca people to work in what is called the Mita system, which is a system that they had before, but it's going to be much harsher under the Spanish. And they're going to take that silver and they are going to, it's going to circulate around the world and keep this global economy running through these silver mines, especially getting Chinese goods. We have chattel slavery, which is the forced property type slavery that exists, taking people from West Africa, reducing the West African population, bringing them to the Americas. Harsh, one of the worst human atrocities ever committed. We got cash crop plantations. Cash crops are crops that are grown not necessarily to subsist and to live and to eat, but to make money, hence the term cash crop. This would be sugar, tobacco, tea. You don't need those things to live, but they make huge amounts of money at the time. So we see that. We also have the castas social structure in Spanish Latin America. That's our little pyramid where we have the peninsulares on top in Spanish Latin America, who are born in Spain, and then we kind of work our way down the list to Native Americans and Africans. Basically, the lighter your skin, the higher that you are in the social class, darker the lower. We have the encomienda system. This is a forced labor system in Mexico. The conquistador who comes from Spain gets the lands, and the people who live on that land, the Native Americans who are there, have to work for the conquistador or provide certain goods. This is not slavery, though. You're not buying and selling the people who are Native Americans. You are you're forcing them to work or provide you with stuff. And lastly, and I want to, huge thing here, just like star this, don't forget this, Indian Ocean trade. The AP World people love the Indian Ocean trade. It was a DBQ in 2019, and it pops up all the time. The Indian Ocean is the main trade route during this period. It had been primarily dominated by Muslim and Chinese merchants in the previous time period. And in this time period, we see the Europeans start to work their way in, and we see kind of a little conflict in the Indian Ocean over who controls stuff and how we can limit it. So that's Cram, whatever, number 2. That's periods 3 and 4. You know, we're just going to keep on pushing. That's what I got. I'm out.